Okay, everybody, hi. We are on Techniques of Integration, webinar commentary number 13. And this is from Esoteric Psychology 2. We're on page 369, and we have just gone through analyzing and interpreting the fifth ray formula. And now let us see what DK has to say about this. This fifth ray formula is of exceeding potency at this time and should be used often, but with care, by those upon this line of divine energy, those who are at least striving towards the higher of the pairs of opposites, those in whom there has been an awakening to the fact that this higher of the pairs, the soul, may well exist, and who have begun to turn their attention from a preoccupation with the form. We know that the fifth ray ashram is one of those that is in process of externalization, as is the first and as is the second. Those in particular, I believe also, well, the seventh ray ashram will be coming in. The sixth is present, but not so active, although one wonders whether during this age, with the withdrawal of the sixth ray from the soul perspective, how active the sixth ray ashram will be, and how long that sixth ray will be out of incarnation. The third ray ashram is also coming in strongly to help solve the financial problem particularly. Here we have a reference concerning the incoming ashrams, as I say, the second, the first, and the fifth. Among the 7 major ashrams and their subsidiary and affiliated ashrams, only a few have undertaken to send their disciples and their initiates at this time to carry out this initiatory task. The 3 major ashrams so engaged are: 1, the ashram of the Master K.H. This is a second ray ashram, and with that of the Master M, the most powerful in the hierarchy. It controls the building forces. Then, number 2, the first ray ashram, that of the Master M. He is the custodian of the principle of synthesis, and the work of which is that of organic fusion, and this is ever needed to supplement that of the building agents. And then, third, the ashram of a master on the fifth ray. A master, is it Master Hilarion? The custodian, among other things, of science and of that which relates and brings into expression the duality of spirit-matter. This ashram has an important part to play in the work of preparation, for it is through the scientific use of energy that the world will be rebuilt and the factual nature of the hierarchy be proved. Okay. Through the pressure of education, the second ray energy, through the growth of the concept of synthesis, first ray energy, and through the correct use of energy, that's interesting, fifth ray energy, this world can be brought into a condition of preparedness for the externalization of the hierarchy. The efforts of the disciples coming from the ashram of KH will be largely directed towards the general public, but they will work primarily through educators in all countries and through those concerned with the teaching of religion. Educators touch those preparing for all types of activity. The task will be necessarily slow, particularly at first, but the second ray endowment of these disciples, as that of all disciples on this ray, is a steady persistence which brooks no discouragement, even when discouragement makes its appearance. Such disciples refused to discontinue their efforts or to change the spiritually ordained plans even when obstacles to accomplishment seem insuperable. Disciples will come deliberately into incarnation and will take office in institutions of higher learning and in the churches, and will exert such pressure that old and obsolete methods, ancient outworn theologies, and selfish and competitive techniques will be ended, and the sciences of cooperation, of right human relations, and of correct adjustment to life through meditation and right vision will supersede the present methods of learning. This will lead to no damage to the acquisition of academic knowledge or the right apprehension of spiritual truth. The vision will be different and the goals of a higher order, but the best that is now taught along the lines of art, religion, and science will still be available. They will, however, be presented with a greater enlightenment and a better emphasis. They will meet the people's need. The churches, being today headed towards failure and lacking vision, will eventually and inevitably crash upon the rocks of unwarranted and abused authority. Yet out of the wreckage will emerge those true and spiritually enlightened churchmen who, with vision and sure knowledge, free from dogmatism and hating ecclesiastical authority, will develop the New World religion. And so it goes on to tell us of the work in Master M's ashram, and I suppose in the work of the Fifth Ray ashram here. Yes. Well, we won't read all of that, but I recommend to you these pages 578, 579, 580, in conjunction with what we are now studying. Okay. So anyway, it's of exceeding potency. It's one of the three ashrams coming into expression at this time, preparing for the externalization of the hierarchy and the reappearing Christ. It has most powerful integrating properties, this formula, but it has to be used with care, okay, and he'll share with us why, in his perspective, this is so. Because, the fifth ray is the divine connector, after all, but it is also having to do with the mastery of energy and with the handling of very, very potent energies. So, the person who employs it must be mindful to visualize and hold in the mind's eye the even, balanced, equilibrized distribution of divine energy set in motion by the use of this fifth ray formula. This reminds us, of course, of Libra and the equilibrization of energies, and also of the threefoldness, and also of the threefoldness which must be balanced. Okay. Excuse me. Equilibrization. Well, equilibration, maybe that's the better word. So that the three aspects of the spiritual entity concerned, the mind, the one who uses it, the self, which is the soul in this case, and the form nature may be equally stimulated. I suppose there's always the danger with the focus of the fifth ray and perhaps an undue canalized emphasis that one or other of these three may be ignored. We do notice among fifth ray types how sometimes the physical body is ignored, or the life of emotion, the life of relationship may be ignored, all in the interests of the mental pursuit. And certainly through skepticism, the one behind all this, the soul, the being consciousness, is often ignored. This statement means, for instance, that, let's see here, if all the emphasis of the soul energy available is poured into the lower nature, the natural man, it might result in the shattering of the form and the consequent uselessness of the man in service. I think we see really the need for balance, and the triangle is the symbol of balance. If all of it, on the other hand, is poured into the receiving chalice of the astral nature, it might serve to intensify the glamour and to produce fanaticism. Yes, even among the fifth-ray types. How interesting. Fanaticism along a particular line, probably not along the line of faith per se, unless other ray energies contraindicate. Okay, so balanced distribution is needed, and this is the caveat, that this formula must be used with care. Okay, so anyway, the lower psychic man, physical and astral, must receive a balanced quota of force. We might say that this is the non-mental or even irrational aspect of man. The mind must receive its share of illuminating energy from the fifth ray soul, and usually this mind gets the lion's share. A third part of the energy must be retained within the periphery of the soul nature to balance the other two. Otherwise, what is known here as the one will be obscured and ignored. So, how interesting the factor of balance here. Libra is a third ray constellation at this moment primarily, but it has Venus as the exoteric ruler, and hence its association with the fifth ray, and Saturn relating also to the concrete mind, and Uranus also to the concrete mind, and both Saturn and Uranus related to other aspects of the mind as well. So there is the fifth ray suggestion in Libra. This is a replica of the experience of the monad when coming into manifestation, for the monad retains a measure of energy within itself. We might say, in a way, the son who did not go forth and who remains with the father. Okay, even as the father. So the monad retains a measure of energy within itself. Now one could almost wonder, one wonders also about the distribution of energy from the solar angel. How extensive is that, what's called fragment of itself, which pervades the entire universe. So the monad, it retains a measure of energy within itself. It sends forth energy which is anchored in that energy center we call the soul. So we might say that this is the anchorage as the jewel in the lotus, or central fire of the egoic lotus. Still more energy pours forth via the soul for the production of the human being, and this is so important. This really is monadic energy. I've been saying all along that whatever being we have in the lower worlds and the world of soul, it is monadic being. Whatever consciousness we have in this lower three worlds or in the world of the soul, it is monadic awareness or monadic consciousness. It's just an attenuation of the same, hampered or hemmed in by the denser materials of the relatively lower planes, relatively lower than the monadic plane. So there's a triple distribution here, and the monad it's monadic energy via the soul. This is, I'm very glad to see this confirmation here. This is monadic energy entering lower worlds via the soul. Okay. An expression of the soul upon the physical plane. Still more energy pours forth also via the soul for the production of the human being, an expression of the soul upon the physical plane, just as the soul is an expression of the monad upon the mental plane. And both are expressions also of that one monad, and so very important. And, you know, maybe I got this from reading this material earlier, I don't know, but it has been my conviction that everything is monad, really, and we have to see the way the monad subdivides itself in order to understand its life in worlds other than the strictly monadic world, the monadic plane. Okay. So, division of energy. Master Moria speaks of the divisibility of the spirit. And I think we are speaking of this here, the divisibility of the spirit. The use of this formula, which produces eventually a definite relation between the soul and the various aspects of the form, and this is what all of these formulas are to do, brings about a needed alignment. And again, as in the cases considered previously, also produces a crisis. So, in general, we can say, well, what produces alignment? Many different things, meditation or a certain way of living produces the alignment, a certain type of expression. What can produce alignment? A number of factors, but among them is the use of the formula given. The formula here given. So he says the use of this formula, you know, listening to the voice of the soul, when you're preoccupied only with the garment of God and trying to apply to your process what the soul is recommending, this can bring about an alignment with this source of higher wisdom. I'm trying to think of the other. You said in the second ray formula that it would be meditation that would bring about the alignment. In my view, it's this incredible one-pointed attempt to fulfill one's will and intentions that brings about alignment in the case of the first ray. I suppose, though, that if someone were studentially attentive to any of the formulas, the use of the formula would produce alignment. And in the case of the third ray, the enforced quiet is what brings about the alignment. And perhaps in the case of the fourth ray, some attempt at harmonization, some attempt at expression of beauty brings this about. But in all cases, if the aspirant is studentially minded and will study the formulas here or attempt to abide by what is suggested, some form of alignment will be brought about. So the use of this formula, which produces eventually a definite relation between the soul and the various aspects of the form, brings about a needed alignment. So let's see, how can we put this, that relation precedes alignment. A true alignment with the source is not yet achieved in the beginning once the initial relations begin. The initial relations have to persist before there is a steady connection between the inner soul and the outer form. And again, as in other cases considered previously, alignment produces also and evokes a crisis. I think the use of the formula the use of the formula will produce the crisis, but so will the alignment. Because, as we have been discussing, there along this line of connection, which is a well-practiced line of approach, will come the soul energy which will clash with the personality energy and produce crisis. I'm glad to have seen the word clash again in the fourth ray formula, because I think it is so descriptive of what is happening with the higher directive, the way the higher directive impacts the lower form. This crisis must be regarded as producing two lesser crises in the consciousness of the personality. So, what do we have so far? The use of the formula produces alignment. And, as usual, the alignment produces crisis. And the crisis, in this case, has two lesser crises as its component parts. Okay. So, the first of these lesser crises and the large crisis is that in which there comes the achieving of equilibrium and what might be called a balanced point of view. Again, a Libra reference. All references to the balance are Libran references. Again, a Libran reference. This balanced vision causes much difficulty and leads to what might be called the ending of the joy life and of desire. The emotions are so contained by reason that they cannot express with strong energy. And joy is a very strong energy related to the astral body in part. So there is kind of a graying of the life. Everything is tranquil but so unexcited as to be dull and uninteresting. This is not a pleasant experience to the disciple. It leads to much aridness in the life experience. No sense of, and to a sense of loss. What is lost? The sense of vibrant, exciting, highly stimulated livingness is lost. So disinterest in life can eventuate. And even, drastic, not even wanting to live anymore. Problems are solved and there is no driving impulse of desire. A loss of aspiration and driving desire. Because so often it's the astral body which stimulated makes one feel truly interested in life. There is a motivation. And forward-moving motivations may be stifled. Well, okay, so this is interesting. Much aridness in the life experience, a sense of loss, of grayness, of paleness, and a lack of real interest in living. It often takes much wise handling, and frequently time elapses before the disciple emerges on the other side of the experience. I'm remembering that Carl Jung had some of these kinds of individuals who came to him for psychological counsel, for analysis, and he had to bring vibrancy back into their life. He had, Jung had to bring vibrancy, contrast, and color back into their lives, as there was too much mental emphasis and no excitement. Okay, so that's the first subsidiary crisis which arises, and let's see about the next one. This balanced condition in which the not-self and the self, the life aspect and the form aspect, are seen as they are essentially are, through the aid of the use of the discriminating faculty of mind, leads eventually to a crisis of choice and to the major task of the disciple's life. Again, this is a very Libran experience between the pairs of opposites, viewing them both with initial dispassion, refusing to get, shall we say, get too excited about anything. But what can we say here? Sort of languishing in an in-between no man's land, but languishing without excitement, in the excitement, in the no man's land between the two. So, for a long time, I suppose, there's an evaluative process going on. Which of the pairs of opposites is worth pursuing? Then there will be a detaching of himself from the grip of form experience, and there is the word. That's going to be the critical word here, from the grip of form experience, and consciously, rapidly, indefinitely, and with intention, preparing himself for the great expansions of initiation. The fifth ray is intimately related to the process of initiation. And detachment is the key. The mind of the fifth ray type is so immersed, usually, in form, that this detachment is as if, well, is perhaps frightening. It is as if giving up reality for something unproven and insubstantial. So, there has to be at least a sufficient orientation towards the life aspect, towards the self, towards the soul, if this choice can be made properly. So there must be at least some orientation towards the self, the soul, the life aspect before this choice, choice of detachment can be properly made. So those are the two aspects of the crisis. Aridity. When things are very arid, they are dry, they are unattractive, they lack the juice of life, we might say. In an arid condition, there is dryness, unattractiveness, lacking the juice of life. Life settles down to the predictable, and the motive to keep going is questioned. But then, in the second phase, a crisis of choice confronts. In the second phase, it is a crisis of choice between form and soul, which confronts the fifth ray type, and fifth ray type, and he has to have a good reason for the necessary detachment. When this dual crisis is over, and that which it has evoked has been rightly handled, let's say in the light, in the growing light, light of the soul, sometimes I wish I could type, then the light streams forth in greater measure, leading to the revelation of the relationship of form and soul. So, light leads to revelation. Revelation occurs with intensification of the light. So the light of the soul is seen, and as it intensifies, the understanding of the relationship between soul and form is revealed. These two are then seen as one in a sense never before realized, and are then regarded as possessing a relation quite different to the theoretical relationships produced or posited in ordinary occult and religious work. So to the true scientist of the soul, to the true scientist of the soul, there is a new and deeper, accurate understanding of the relationship between soul and form. Well, we are told that under the fifth ray, and apparently in the country France with its Piscean soul, that which we call the soul, I suppose the egoic lotus, the Kalsabare on its own high plane, will be scientifically discovered. And then perhaps we shall see a factual relationship between soul and form, which is much clearer, factually clear, demonstrably clear, than the usual conception of that relationship as it exists for the ordinary student of occultism, functioning, let's say, on a different ray, either ray 2, 6, 1, something of that nature. It will be apparent, therefore, how a new relationship and a new type of integration then becomes possible. So let's just say integration follows this revelation of this new relationship of an unsuspected unity between soul and form. So it will be apparent, therefore, how a new relationship and a new type of integration then becomes possible, and how the mind quality of the fifth ray, even of the fifth ray soul, critical, analytical, separative, over-discriminating, can become what in the Middle Ages it used to be called the common sense, perhaps the mind that can understand the form and also understand the soul aspect. I'm recalling here that for the third ray we have Caspi, critical, analytical, separative, full of self, prideful. I forgot that. Prideful and full of self-interest. And for the fifth ray, we have C-A-S-O. Oh, no, C-A-S-O. We have the beginning, the same, critical, analytical, separative, and overly discriminating. So those are the two types of mental approach, very similar in a way, except apparently there's more mental pride in the third ray type. So then a new integration will supervene, and then becomes possible. A new type of integration then becomes possible because of this revelation of the true scientific relationship. In other words, real knowledge of the real relationship between soul and personality. And real, how can we call it, articulated knowledge, definite, precise, accurate, practical knowledge of the relationship between soul and personality. And then the mind is able to mediate between the two. The mind can blend and fuse the form and life. It's a mediating principle. The mind reveals the one. The mind can do all this, revealing the one, understanding as a kind of common sense both form and life, and then leading to a new sense of identity discovered in this intensifying mental light. Okay. So, let us look further. And what else? And when this takes place, the form and life are indeed one unity. The mind can blend and merge the form and life, blend and fuse the form and life into one unity, and the disciple uses the form at will as the instrument of the soul for the working out of the plans of God. I mastered energy, for I am energy itself. The master and the mastered are but one. These plans are at one with the intention of hierarchy. So there was not so full a description here for the fifth ray, but very interesting, really, very interesting. Let's review how this all happens. At first, we have using the formula brings alignment. Using the formula and continuing the alignment brings crisis. The crisis for the fifth ray type has two parts. A, aridity and the loss of the joy, life, and of desire, and also the crisis of choice, which necessitates detachment from the life of form and a rapid one-pointed pursuit of understanding the one behind the form. So we have the crisis. I guess we can simply say that the light becomes stronger. Because there is alignment, the light reveals, or begins to reveal the soul as a true source. And as the one who is counseling this, that if the crisis is handled properly, then the orientation to the soul will increase with the increasing detachment, and the light of the soul will grow stronger and stronger. Stronger and stronger. And because the nearer the soul, the greater the impact of its light, which begins to reveal the true relationship between the soul and its form. So revelation in this case is simply a sufficient intensification of the light. Now I can also imagine sufficient intensification of the light to produce a new understanding, a new and far more accurate understanding of the relationship between the soul and form. But wherever the light is breaking forth, and it's hard to believe, I would say that during the crisis, some aspect of light is entering, which allows the crisis to be resolved rightly. And what will it reveal? Also, a vision of the present condition. And that condition is one of detachment from the soul, which means attachment to the unreal, to the form, which is now seen as the garment of God and not God itself. So we must always realize that the stage of light will reveal a deficiency. This is particularly so, in the secondary formula, we're talking about the light revealing defects. Okay. But it is so, the light that shocks for the first ray, what have I done? Look at all of these dead bodies. What have I destroyed? And light, every crisis carries some light, is what I want to say. Every crisis carries a degree of light which has to intensify if there is to be revelation. The third ray type says, look at the mess I've made. I've gotten nowhere. How shall I begin to extricate myself, untangle myself? And the light for the fourth ray type is revealing only at first, only the dissonance, the light that comes with the crisis. My life is full of dissonance, and yet there could be harmony. There's enough light in this crisis to reveal the harmony that could be, and also the means of achieving the harmony, which means to raise your vibration, to see with the single eye and not with the double eye, the two eyes. So the light reveals the negativity and also the way out, generally. In general, in these formulas, the light reveals negativity and also the way out of the negative condition. So, indeed, every crisis carries with it a degree of light, and as that degree of light is followed, the crisis is rightly handled and the light intensifies, and the intensifying light leads to revelation. Now, every one of us has to think of how we have passed through this process, or maybe passing through it. This will require our own pondering on our own condition, and no one, it will not be the same for every person. So then we have the revelation of the true relationship, unsuspectedly factual relationship between the soul and personality, not a mystical relationship. This revelation is not of a mystical relationship between the soul and personality, but of a relationship with exact energy dynamics of specific kinds. So a fifth ray revelation, a much more sound, scientifically based, truly understood relationship. And then as a result of the revelation, a new type of integration then becomes possible. Because when the mechanism of relationship is revealed, it can be utilized to produce a growing integration. So in the light of revelation, the factual relationship between the soul and personality is seen, and this relationship can be utilized wisely, knowledgeably, to foster a growing integration between soul, mind, and form, or in essence, between soul and personality. So the right use of the mind can bring about the integration which is already in process. The fifth ray type channel focuses his very capable mind on further merging of the energy systems of the two opposites. This is a fairly straightforward method of achieving the goal. And we recall, the mind can blend and fuse the form and life. And the disciple uses the form at will. Now, this is in the second part of the stanza. And it goes like this: then use the forms which then will neither veil nor hide the self. This is using the form at will. Find me. Once the soul is found, the true consciousness, the true identity is found waiting underneath the veils. Then we go forward to the phase where, having found me and having known me, the greater life, the identity can use the forms which then will neither veil nor hide the self, but will permit the nature of that self to penetrate the veils of life, revealing God through form, revealing all the radiance of God, His power and magnetism, and revealing all there is of form and God through form, all the life, beauty, and usefulness of the form in the life and beauty of that which is revealed through the form. So there is necessitated here. There is necessitated a special revelatory use of the mind. It can reveal the one. It can reveal the form and know itself as that which is both one and form. The mind is used in a much higher way here. The mind is used as a connecting agent. Mind used as a connecting agent. So these plans are at one with the intention of the hierarchy, and we now have 5 words for the disciples upon the 5 ways to study. Notice he didn't call our attention to the word detachment, but it was used in the text, and he extracts that word from the text. So Ray 1, inclusion; Ray 2, centralization; Ray 3, stillness; Ray 4, steadfastness; Ray 5, detachment. It's a in a way, a Ray 1 virtue. So is steadfastness. Stillness, Ray 2; centralization, Ray 1; inclusion, Ray 2. Lots of virtues here on the first and second rays, used as antidotes to the condition in which the non-integrated, in which the personality not yet integrated with the soul finds itself. Do we think we've gotten something out of this technique for the 5th ray? Those upon the 5th ray are emerging in their ashrams at this time, and although maybe our circles in the normal occult groups don't so much touch them and come into personal or more working contact with them, we can certainly observe them in the world and all that they may contribute. I suppose it would be worth, of course, knowing them personally, to know some of the great exponents of this ray in a personal sense would be an interesting revelation concerning their vocation as a soul and their avocational expressions as personalities. Then we could see how the two blend and merge. We could also see them in a certain condition of disintegration or non-integration, and how they managed to move through crisis, through listening to that still small voice of the soul saying, "Find me, know me," how they managed to detach themselves from form and find me waiting underneath all the many-sided shapes, the glamours and the thought forms which hide the real self. It will be so interesting to see the psychology of these people in action and to help them through reference to an age-old process which is given in the ageless wisdom. Those of us who are on the second ray may find ourselves with that particular task to help share this normally hidden vision of the long-established and true methods with those who find themselves trapped or stuck in certain repetitive patterns which offer no release from the bondage of form. And it will be a great gift to many kinds of people to show that their problem has been anticipated millions of years ago in the ancient commentaries, because all that is of human nature was known then, and all that would be was known. And in the archives of Shambhala and of the hierarchy to which the master, DK, let's say, has access, the tried and true methods are available if we will learn about them and practice them. Okay, that'll be it, and we'll go on to number 14. See you soon.